Hey, we're back on the Cuban couch. I'm here with Ram.
Hello.
So for people who don't know you, how would you describe yourself?
I would describe myself as just your average speed cuber who's not very fast and decided to start a YouTube channel because I was bored and got some subscribers.
Wow, you call yourself not very fast. So if you're not very fast, then I must be like a complete noob. Because you're pretty fast.
No, definitely no.
Like,
I guess 7 years. It's been 7 years since I started,
wow.
so maybe for that kind of, time, it's not that fast, but
Okay. Tell us a bit about how you got started on YouTube and like what kind of content you currently make.
Yeah, so I just make your typical unboxings, reviews, vlogs, just your basic cubing videos. And I got started on YouTube because I got inspired by QB Time. There was this YouTuber. I used to
Yeah.
watch him a lot back in the day, and DG Cubes as well, JR Cuber. They were all like huge inspirations to me. And one day I decided, if they can make channels and get successful, why can't I do the same? I enjoy cubing as well, and I feel like making videos would be good for me. So I just decided to get on with it. And yep, I'm pretty happy with where I've gotten so far.
And so what kind of content were you making when you started and like how did it transform into what you do now?
So I'd say the content I was making back then was largely similar to what I'm making today. It was unboxings, reviews, and like race videos basically, and
Yeah.
mains and goals for competitions. And it's very similar to what I make today, except I feel like my video making and editing as a whole has improved like a ton. Like when I started, it was honestly not good at all. But I guess everyone goes through that growth rate, of
True.
how they improve making videos. And yeah. Overall, my content hasn't really changed all that much again, but I'm happy with the way my editing skills and my video making has improved.
Yeah, I think everyone has to start somewhere, right? So
Absolutely.
there's plenty of room for growth over time. Let's go into a 30-second Q&A. So this is a new segment. I don't know if I've done this one before. But I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions and we'll see how you get on.
I can try.
So let's get started now. What is your favorite speed cube?
Currently, the Wise 3M.
Ooh. Would you rather have national record in 3x3 or world record in 3 blind?
Probably world record in 3 blind. You can see you're the best in the world at something.
What is your most unpopular cubing opinion?
The 2x2 world record single means a lot. I feel like
Okay.
it's a very important record. It's like the nerves you need in that very moment. You need to handle them. Yeah, sorry, took too long.
If you could compete in any country, which one would it be?
My answer would have been New Zealand just a few months ago, but I've already shifted here. So now it would probably be Australia.
What's your favorite cubing video?
Unpopular one, but Elias EU welcoming me to New Zealand. Just personal connect,
True. What is the worst cube in your collection?
So it was a Rubik's brand 3x3, but I left it back in India. So
So those are the questions. I wasn't actually timing it, so I don't know if it was actually 30 seconds. So I just went
Probably
with the
was
flow.
longer.
I'll probably edit it down to 30 in editing. But what people at home don't know is that we've tried to do this podcast like at least 3 or 4 times, right?
And every single time my network has messed up.
I don't know if it was your side. I think it was both of us, to be honest. But like, it was a very difficult experience. But we're here now, which is good.
Yeah, sorry about any trouble, but yeah, I'm glad we're here now.
Nah, we're all good. What was your goal on YouTube when you started? Like, what was the aim?
I would say numbers wise, it was just 1,000 subscribers, 4 digits. That just felt, special. And then as I progressed with YouTube, it just felt like, I just want to make a difference to the community and, just help people out in some way with my videos, whether, it's actually helping them or just them enjoying my videos. So my goals did change over time. It went from numeric based to like actual, community based. But yeah.
Do you think it's like okay for people to have number-based goals on YouTube?
Absolutely. I think, yeah, it's totally normal. Like sometimes I also really I'm waiting for the day I hit 10,000 subscribers as well. It ultimately keeps us going. While it may not be like your main goal or something, I feel like somewhere deep inside, everyone has some kind of number goals. If you don't, I don't know what to say.
That's true. What would you say to the people who have the sole aim of reaching a number goal? What's your advice to people who have primarily number-based goals in YouTube?
Look, so it comes down to whether you enjoy making videos or not. So
Yeah.
if you're enjoying what you're doing and you still have the number goals, that's fair enough as long as you're enjoying and doing it, and the numbers are also a goal. But if it's solely for the numbers, you're not enjoying it at all, then what's the point really? It's like when you reach that number, I feel like they just get burnt out. Hey, I've already reached this goal. What's the point? But for me, it's like whenever I reach a number goal, it's also like, motivates me to continue going forward and aim for the next milestone.
So how did you feel when you hit 1K?
Oh, it was one of the most special days, honestly, of my life. I remember my friend like made a surprise video for me and congratulating me, included all of my friends in it. I was actually on holiday at the time, and
Wow.
I didn't have a single cube on me like until 48 hours after I hit 1K. So it was kind of funny, but yeah, it was a really good day for me. It meant a lot.
We're gonna try another segment, and it's one we've done before, and it's how well does Ram know himself? So basically, I'm gonna ask you some questions based on like your analytics, your WCA stats. So we're gonna see
Right.
how well you know them. Okay, let's get started.
Yeah.
30 seconds back on the clock.
Let's go. Let's go.
So what is your most popular video?
Shorts, I think it's 2x2 former world record scramble done in 0.35,
Yeah.
0.36.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. What about your most popular like main length video?
Making my own JPEM RS3M 2020?
Yeah.
Or has it been taken over by best 2x2 speed cubes? I'm not keeping track.
No, it's still the JPERM one.
Okay.
What is the total number of views on your channel? And I'll give you some like leeway here.
1.3 million?
Ooh, so it's 1.4 million. I think I'll allow that. I'll allow that. But it's a lot. Wow.
Fair enough.
How many uploads have you got on your channel?
420?
So it's 435. I don't think I'm gonna allow that.
Right.
Okay.
Fair.
You've lost a point. How many WCA events have you competed in?
Is that 9?
It's actually 11. 11 events.
Oh yeah, I haven't. Oh, I did 6x6 recently. Oh, I forgot about that.
And then what is your current rank in India for 2x2 average?
2.
12th.
Wait, 2x2 average?
I went on WCA like.
Yeah, 2x2 average is ranked second in India.
Oh yeah, it is. That's just me being dumb. Ignore me.
Oh,
I was looking at single. That's me being dumb.
2x2 single is 12th? Oh, okay, yeah. It's
Okay,
12th,
single
I
is
know.
12th. I don't know why I wrote 12th. It's actually second. So you
All good.
corrected me there. You were right.
All good. Do I get a bonus point for that?
Yeah, I'll give you a bonus for that. I'll give you a bonus. Okay, so that wasn't too bad. That was all right. Again, I don't know if that was 30
not bad.
seconds, but we'll see.
We'll find
So
out.
on the topic of 2x2, obviously I was completely wrong there, but you are very talented in 2x2. Like I checked your stats and I was like, whoa. Like when did you realize you had potential in 2x2?
So honestly, I feel like the first time I actually felt that way was in 2018 when I did a competition in my home city and I got like a 3-second average that came like 6th or something, and I'm like, hey, with a little bit more grinding I could even make a podium. And then after that it came to a point where I'm like, you kind of have to select one main event, and I always wanted it to be a short event that I can one look so I could impress maybe non-cubers with it, just do it blindfolded or something. And that left me down with 3 options: 2x2, Pyramix, and Scube.
Yeah.
For Pyramix, the tips, like I don't like the tips. That's the one thing that ruins it for me. Scube turning is kind of weird, and I can just it always flies out of my hand. So that basically just left 2x2, and yeah, I just started learning algorithms and went from there.
How do you think like non-cubers like see the 2x2 in your opinion?
Oh, so they always look at it as like an easier version of the 3x3, but then I'm like, hey, why don't you try solve it if it looks that easy? And then no one's able to figure it out, and it's kind of funny. And then my favorite trick to do actually is to just tell them to scramble it, and I'll be like, hey, I'm going to do it blindfolded. And then I just one look the solve, and I'm like, there you go, I did it. I've impressed a lot of non-cubers here in university with that, and it's been a lot of fun.
I think a lot of cubers can get impressed by that as well. Like one looking isn't a very easy thing to do.
Oh yeah, I struggled with one looking quite a bit. It took me a while to get to that point, but I got there.
So like what is one looking for the people who don't know 2x2 much?
So one looking is basically where you memorize like your solution during inspection and then execute it in one look without a single pause. So
Right.
for the EG method on 2 by 2, basically how it works, you solve a face and then you're left with one algorithm to solve the rest. And what I do is I trace the pieces in my head for like each move I do to build a face and predict what EG case I'm going to get after I solve my face. So then I won't have a single pause in between making the face and, solving the cube. I mean,
Right.
sorry, solving the algorithm.
Yeah. So like another thing I've noticed with 2 by 2 is that when I went to comps recently, people use it as a way of transitioning into learning 3 by 3. Like I've seen a lot of like
Interesting.
older people learn the 2 by 2 because it's like an easier way to learn the Rubik's Cube. And so then they then transition into learning 3 by 3.
That's interesting. I've never actually noticed that. It's
Right.
like I've always seen people do 3 by 3 first and then get good and then they're like, oh, I want to
Okay.
get good at 2 by 2. Like actually Timon, for example,
Yeah.
he was always decent at 2 by 2, but like he recently just got 1.3 2 by 2 NR average and like that's yeah, I've never noticed anyone do like learn 2 by 2 algs to get good at 3 by 3. That's just yeah.
What does it take to get good at 2 by 2? Like really good.
So for me, it's like someone who has good finger tricks,
Yeah.
has good TPS, which naturally just develops over time, knows their algorithms well, and can one look like 95% of solves. I think that is what makes up world class 2 by 2 solving as a whole, and that can take you all the way to like easily 1.7 seconds on average, which is considered really good for at least for what I think.
So I think it's actually been like at least 2 years now since you told me get good at 2 by 2. Oh, I think I came to you actually that I was like, I want to get good at 2 by 2 and I need some tips.
I remember that.
And
I
then
remember that.
and then you gave me like this spreadsheet. And I don't think I've touched that spreadsheet in like 2 years.
Oh no. Yeah, that was back when the national record for UK was actually achievable. Now,
Yeah.
Luke Burns, a new up and coming talented UK cuber, just broke it with 1.34 seconds, which is an incredible average. Like,
is,
Luke,
yeah.
hats off.
I think it was like 2 seconds before that or something close to 2 seconds.
It was 1.57,
Oh,
but
right,
the
okay.
ranked second was like 1.9. So
Yeah.
yeah, Luke Burns really just slashed it down. Very impressive.
So for me, I think the main thing is getting started. Like I would struggle getting started with learning the algs and like setting up the schedule. So like how do you go about like forcing yourself to learn algs in like a schedule? Like do you have a spreadsheet that you like I'm gonna do this today, this tomorrow? Like how do you go about doing that?
Okay, if I'm being honest, I learned most of my algs during that phase where, the COVID lockdowns were there and we had absolutely nothing to do.
Okay.
And so I really had nothing better to do than just learn algorithms. So then that's why I didn't really need that kind of motivation. And that's why I haven't really learned too many 2 by 2 algs since COVID happened. Like I just haven't had much time. So I'm not the best person to ask on how to get started, if that makes sense.
What would be your top piece of 2 by 2 advice or motivation for someone who's either just starting or, getting into that position where they're wanting to become pro?
Don't get demotivated by miss one looking, if that makes sense, if that's the level you're talking about, because
Yeah.
miss one looking when you're trying to get like extremely world class is very common. It's I used to miss one look like what 60% of my souls, and
Yeah.
then I used to just be demotivated and be like, oh, why am I doing this event? But ultimately it just takes practice. If you miss one look a solve, just keep going. Just go back to the scramble and see what you messed up and make sure you've got your one looking skills right for that scramble.
And how long do you think it would take for someone in your like how long did it take you actually to reach your level in 2 by 2 like pro level?
All right, so I started learning CLL in about June 2019, and it took me quite a few months to finish it because back then it obviously wasn't COVID and I didn't have as much time.
Yeah.
So then by September of 2019, I believe I was averaging sub 3 seconds, around 2.6, 2.7.
Yeah.
And then from there, up until the COVID lockdown, I kind of stagnated, and then from COVID, like from March to about June, July, I absolutely grinded and I dropped by half a second, and that's where that's where my world class skill kind of took off. it was like, yeah, it took me about 3 or 4 months, I believe, to get from, an average, 2 second 2 by 2 solver to almost world class.
I don't know why you put world class in quotation marks. Like, I actually think you are a world class 2x2 solver.
I appreciate it.
So, like, what do you think is the difference between someone like you who's getting still very strong solves and someone who's like fighting for like a world record? Like, do you think you would be capable of breaking the world record? And if so, what do you think you would need to do in order to do that?
I know exactly what I'd need to do. I have an idea of it, but I'm not going to be having the time to do it. So basically, what I'm missing is more algorithms. That's what 2 by 2 is all about. The more
Right.
algorithms you know, the better you will be at the event. Like, all I know at the moment is CLL, EG1, and like a few EG2 algorithms, like three LEG ones. But I know zero TCLL, zero LS algorithms, and that's what makes the difference between me, who's like at around 1.7 seconds maybe on average with a 1.4 average, versus someone like Zane or Phoenix Patterson, who are learning LS, TCLL, and are getting averages that are easily 1.0, 1.1 seconds without too much trouble. And for me, I barely get those averages even at home. So, yeah, that's the difference.
Right. How many algorithms do you think there actually is that you'd need? And how many do you know now?
Okay, so I know about, I'd say, 100 algorithms for 2 by 2,
Wow.
which is not bad. But if you combine everything, like from CLL all the way to like LS, how much would it be? Just a minute. Uh, it would actually end up being somewhere around 500-ish algorithms, which is nowhere near 100, which is what I know. So, yeah, ultimately it does seem like, a lot of work for a little bit of improvement. But
Yeah.
if you look at it at a relative scale, it is a huge improvement. It's from like 1.6 all the way to 1.2.
That is, wow, that's impressive. Like, when you say 100 algs, I'm just like blown away because, like, that's a lot. Like, people don't realize how much
And then
that
there
is.
are people who know 500 algs without any trouble. Zane Kanani and Will Callan actually developed LS 4 to 9 as well, which has been in progress for since I think 2019. So it was
Right.
recently just finished off. So now it's even more now, the number probably.
So we're seeing these like young cubers getting into 3x3, right? These like 7-year-old, 8-year-old 3x3 solvers that are really pro. Do you see the same thing happening for 2x2? Because I don't feel like I've seen that yet.
Oh, absolutely. Yiheng himself is ranked third in the world for 2 by 2 at the
Right.
moment. Yeah, he has the Asian record. And back in 2022, 2021, when his last competition was before he had that, 2 year break, his average was, I think, 3 seconds, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And now he's dropped to Asian record level. So, sort of, in a way, the 3 by 3 kids themselves are kind of taking over 2 by 2. There's also, I think, Bofan Zhang, like a lot of the Chinese 3 by 3 kids are kind of getting into 2 by 2 as well and taking over the event. But and even Timon as a whole, he dropped his average to about 1.3 seconds recently, 1.35, which is, yeah, he was known to be the 3 by 3 guy. Now he
Yeah.
just has all N by N national records.
Wow.
And yeah, I definitely see, like, kids, I guess, taking over a 2 by 2 as well. It's the ones who have like the crazy fast TPS. There's, I believe, Alexi. I'm not too sure how old he is, but I can't imagine he's that old. And then there's, of course, Phoenix Patterson, who's ranked fourth, I believe, at the moment with a 1.1 average, and he's also 14. So yeah, maybe not as young as the 3 by 3 kids, but yeah, it's not definitely not like, older people in their late teens taking over the event. Like, there's only Zain Kanani who's, sort of on the older side, and even he's not that old.
Yeah. No, well, that just shows my complete lack of 2x2 knowledge there.
No, it's all good.
So, like,
Because there are also obviously some people who are slightly elder and in 2 by 2. Like, for example, Brian Johnson is in his 20s and still absolutely crushing the event in, America. He's like, besides Zain Kanani, I think he has a 118 average. So, yeah.
wow. So what people don't know is that so you went from India to New Zealand, is that right?
Yep.
So like, what did the cubing scene look like in India, and like, how does that compare to the cubing scene in New Zealand?
It is far too different. I don't even know where to begin at this point. It's like in India, in New Zealand, you basically know everyone. It's a much closer knit community. There are much fewer people, and like you'd recognize everyone at some competition. But in India, it's impossible to get to know everyone. And there's
Yeah.
like a split even in India. There's a North Indian cubing community. There's Maharashtra, which is where I'm from, and then there's a South Indian cubing community. It is so big. Like you won't even get to know all the cubers in your split of the cubing community, whereas in New Zealand you basically know everyone around the country. It's much easier to know more people here.
Right, very interesting. You're now the biggest YouTuber in New Zealand, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's a big deal. Like, I don't think people realize how big being the biggest YouTuber in your niche in your country is.
It's a cool feeling. It's a very cool feeling, honestly. I've pondered over it for a long time. Like, hey, I'm the biggest cubing YouTuber in the country. What the heck? That's so
Wow.
cool. It still hasn't like sunk in for me, and like it might not seem like a massive title, but to me, it means a lot. Honestly, yeah.
So, like, who are your favorite cubing YouTubers in India? If you want to give them an opportunity to like shout them out here.
So I'd say English speaking or like just
It could be
any
anyone. It could be
language.
anyone. Yeah.
Yeah, so for other languages like Hindi, I'd say Cubing Guru is really good. Technical and Smart India, they make really good Hindi content. And for English, I don't believe there's anyone who's that active anymore, but there's Cuboid who drops some edits every now and then, and he makes some pretty good content. Cuboid.
Right. Interesting. Interesting. So, like, why do you think there's a big difference in those two scenes? Like, why do you think they're so polarizing?
Obviously, there's the population thing that comes into effect, but another thing is I feel like parents kind of encourage kids to get into cubing in India early on, and
Right.
then once they see them do it a bit too much to the point where it affects their studies, they're like, oh, you should probably leave it. That's why you can't really keep track of everyone who comes in and goes, and then there's new wave of kids coming in. Same thing happens. They get a bit distracted, and then parents are like, oh, you got to focus on studies. Whereas
Yeah.
in New Zealand, it's not really all that study focused. It's like if you're into cubing, the parents will encourage it. I've also noticed a lot more cubing parents in New Zealand who actually even compete in cubing comps versus in India. Mainly, yeah, my parents barely came to comps in India with me as well. So, and here I see parents actually competing with their kids, and it's cool to see.
Yeah. I think going back to that close knit thing that you mentioned previously, are you familiar with Mike from Speedcube NZ?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
His store, I don't know if he still does it, but like he used to have an in-person, people could come in person and like buy cubes. So I feel like
Yep.
it reached a point where it's so close knit that like people would be willing to like travel and come to a cube store to actually physically get their cubes, which is interesting.
Absolutely.
Something to mention actually is that you have a really good relationship with a lot of cubing YouTubers. Like you seem to be
I guess
pretty,
so, yeah.
you seem to be pretty close with a lot of like the big YouTubers. So like, how do you think that came about?
So honestly, for Cubehead, like I'm just gonna name a few examples here.
Yeah.
For Cubehead, I used to watch his content since he was at a few hundred subscribers, like early on, and he was into 2x2. I don't know if you remember his Road to World Record series for 2x2, but I was into 2x2 as well at a similar level as him, and I used to give him tips, help him out, and so I feel like that's where my relationship, I guess, with Cubehead was formed. For JPerm, I think it's just being on Team Speedcube Shop kind of played a role in that. And
Right.
before that, I used to be his patron and get tips from him for 3x3. So I guess it wasn't really any story behind that. And then for Tingman, it was I shared a video to him for his 100,000 subscriber special, and that's when I guess he kind of got to know of me, and then he found my channel, and yeah.
It's like, what do you think is the biggest thing you've learned from these YouTubers?
The biggest thing I've learned from these YouTubers is to just ultimately stay consistent and you will reach your goal. It's like, and obviously keep improving yourself. Like
Yeah.
Cubehead in particular, I will never forget what he told me. Make sure you make every single video that you make better than your last one. Like that should be your goal for every
Yeah.
single video you make. And that has kind of stuck with me. And obviously, I don't think I've reached that level yet where every single video can be better than my last one, but I'm trying to get there and, sort of trying to improve myself as I go along.
And you've also done quite a lot of collab videos with other YouTubers. So what do you think is like the benefit of doing collab content as opposed to just, working separately?
So I feel like collaborations as a whole, like people might disagree with me on this, but like collaborations as a whole allow you to get discovered by the other cubing channels, like
True.
other cubing channels viewers, and the other cubing channels viewers can also come to you and find you as a new YouTuber. I know JPerm, for example, like he barely does collabs on his own channel because he's the biggest. So I don't really know if he would agree with this, if that makes sense. But for me, I feel like it's made a difference because when I've done these collabs, people always come from other channels and they're like, oh, I saw you on this person's channel on the community post or whatever. And then there are people who go from mine to especially the smaller channels I've collabed with and say, oh, I've come from Ram Thakkar to the other small channels, and they
Yeah.
end up discovering a channel that they like, so it helps.
Do you think there's any like challenges that come with doing a collab video that people might not be aware of?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like firstly getting in contact with that person, like that's like kind of sometimes it's not really a big problem if you because of Discord and stuff nowadays, but like if you don't have direct contact, like direct messaging contact with the person, you'd have to go through email and everything, and that would
Yeah.
obviously take some time and they might not even reply. The second thing is trying to get them to send the video. Like I mean, I've done that myself. When people ask me to collab, I kind of even have put it off sometimes, and people tend to like put it off sending you the video. But yeah, I feel like those are just the main two challenges. Other than that, it's like once you get your hands on that on the footage of the other person, it's smooth sailing basically.
What do you think makes a good collab video, given that you've done quite a lot now and you've got the experience?
I'd say what makes a good collab video is roughly 70% of the video should be yourself and about 30% should be the other person. Like obviously this doesn't apply in all scenarios. Like
Yeah.
for example, there's the X Cubers One Scramble series I have on my channel where I invite the world class cubers to do a walkthrough solve on the same scramble, and obviously that's like barely like 2% me and 98% the other guys. But generally if you're working on, let's say, a cube review or something together, should be 70% yourself and 30% of a segment coming from someone else. I feel like that strikes a good balance.
I don't think anyone's ever given that kind of advice before. I think that's very valuable. Like when people do collab videos, they kind of just mash together like two halves of content and they don't really think about how they connect.
Oh yeah.
You've probably seen
yeah,
that.
exactly. There should also be a connection between your thing and then going smoothly into the person who you're collabing with. It shouldn't just be
Yeah, like I've
fit
seen
out of context.
I won't call out any names, but I've seen a lot of like collab reviews where there'll be like, hey, I'm gonna talk about this cube, and then it kind of just jumps straight into like some other guy talking about the same cube. Have you seen those before?
I feel like I have. I don't know exactly who you're talking about, but yeah.
No, I don't
I
think
feel
I'm
like I
talking
might
about a
have.
specific person, but like I've seen those kinds of content before, and I've thought like the other person needs to at least provide something like different or like interesting.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
So that's another thing about cubing collabs.
Yeah.
So what people may or may not know is that you have been very, very consistent on YouTube.
Maybe not lately, but
No,
yeah,
but-
I take pride on that.
You do, yeah. Like it's a very difficult thing to do on YouTube, like to be consistent. How did you go about like making consistent content?
It's just every time I uploaded a video, I would just take one day off, and then all of a sudden it was like clockwork in my mind. I would just be like, hey, what video am I working on next?
Right.
Like obviously lately, since I've shifted countries, my focus has shifted more towards university and exams as a whole, because ultimately I am here to study. But even today, it's like I was just thinking before this, what video should I work on next? And yeah, I feel like that makes a huge difference. You should just have it in you to continue working on whatever you're working on next, instead of being forcing yourself to just stay consistent. Because if you're truly committed to YouTube, I think it'll just come naturally.
So like what kind of commitments and like priorities do you currently have, and where does cubing fit into that?
Okay, so if you asked me this a couple of weeks ago, like I was in the middle of my first ever university semester exams, which I've never done before. So obviously it was a huge deal to me. And being an international student, I also have like, I'm at the risk of if I fail a single course, I could just get deported back to my home country. So studying is now basically become my number one priority, keeping up with my grades. But other than that, I still try to be active in the cubing community every now and then, and keep up with all the releases, all of the videos that others are making, and also try and make videos myself, because ultimately besides studying, I feel like making videos is my second priority, staying active on YouTube.
So like whilst you're just starting university, I've actually just finished. So I think we're like on opposite sides of
Congrats.
the spectrum there. If there was something that you wanted to know, or like some advice that you wanted to know from me or from anyone who's finished university now.
Yeah, I want to know something. I
Okay.
want to know something. Is it true that your first year is always like the hardest one because you're getting used to it, and then from second year onwards it's smooth sailing?
For me, it was actually the opposite. For me, like the first year was the easiest because technically for me, the first year didn't count. So the results in
Oh,
the first year is it's just like a warm up year, learning like the basics of your subject. For you, I guess it's different because you
no,
have
no,
the
it's
added
different.
pressures of grades and stuff. But I
Of
guess,
course.
and another thing was I didn't stay at the university. I had to like travel every day to get to the university.
Oh,
So I feel like
I
for
see.
people who were like staying at the uni and like they had to like force themselves to like get to know the people and like managing finances and that kind of stuff, I guess the first year could be the most difficult.
Oh yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. And then my tip, if I had to give you some advice, is
Yep,
to keep on track, if not ahead of schedule. Like try not to fall behind, even by
that
one
makes
lecture
sense.
or even one video, because like it's very difficult to catch up. Like
Absolutely.
there was cases where people would be like add like not show up to the lectures but then be like, oh, I'm gonna watch them later. Like, you have the option? I'll watch them later
Honestly,
online.
I've done that myself.
Okay. And
Yeah,
in 99% of cases people don't end up going back to watch the video.
I I don't either.
Oh
I just
no.
got back. I just got back a result today, like from one of the courses I'm doing that I barely went to lectures for, and I still did well. So I'm
Okay,
happy with it.
that's
But
good,
like
that's good.
I know exactly where you're coming from. It's like I'll tell myself, oh, I'll just watch the lecture later.
Yeah,
It's fine. I can just sleep in. But then I never end up doing so, and
yeah.
it's always so annoying.
So that's my one big tip for you going forwards.
Yeah,
um
but in terms of assignments as a whole, I try to stay as ahead as possible. Like I remember there was a time where I was doing my assignment that was due in 3 weeks, and people were like, "Hey, why are you doing it so early?" I'm just
yeah.
like, so I can just stay on top of it. So I appreciate the advice, and it's good to know I've been doing the right thing.
And then another thing is to surround your this applies to cubing as well and everything else, but to surround yourself with motivated people.
Motivated people, yeah, that makes sense. In fact, for maths itself, I have a really motivated group, if that makes sense, and they've actually helped me to improve my skills, because I think it was one of my weakest courses in uni, and I think it was still my weakest going into the exams. But I feel like I was doing a lot better than what I was at the start of the semester, so that makes sense as well.
Like I feel like in the YouTube world, so you're obviously familiar with Mr. Beast. So he had like a small group of people that all were working on making YouTube content, and they were all highly
Absolutely.
motivated, and they'd like talk to each other every day for like several years, and that's what helped them grow. Do you think you have that kind of group in the YouTube world?
Uh, Honestly, at the moment, I'm not very sure. But back in like last year, I absolutely did. Like, I don't know if you know, like, Cartrick Kid was pretty consistent. Then
Yeah,
there was
yeah.
Carter. Like, those guys, like a few of us from that group, JF Cubing. Yeah, a few of us just had that group, and we used to like help each other out massively. Like, there wasn't a single day we went without like talking to each other. And yeah, at the moment, sort of like with the New Zealand YouTubers, I am sort of connected, but not a lot of them are very consistent anymore, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. And even like Carter Kid and Carter are not that consistent. I saw Carter posted something, but like, yeah, Carter Kid, Carter, JF, and all, we used to have this big group, and I used to be, yeah, that's what pushed me through 2021 basically to continue making videos. Oh yeah, and M Cubers as well. How I can never forget him.
Yeah, true. And you're all doing really well now. Like you've all got over 1,000 subscribers, some two, three,
Yes,
four
sir.
k all doing really well. So
Thank you.
your YouTube setup. So what goes into making a video, like shooting, recording a video for you?
Honestly, it's nowhere near as fancy as a lot of people. I just have like a tripod and I put my phone onto it on a desk, and that's pretty much it. It is not fancy at all. And when it comes to recording souls, I just have a GoPro, basically just a GoPro Hero 10 Black, which I just place, and that's how I film my souls. It's not complicated
Wow.
at all. It takes like 2 minutes to set up. So I guess ultimately that's where it comes into play, that, more than having a professional setup, just, making content that people enjoy is a billion times more important.
True. Like you see these people buying expensive equipment thinking they need it, when in fact
Absolutely not.
it's
You do
not.
not need that.
You don't. You don't. Even in our
I
case,
mean,
like
it's a great bonus.
it is,
It
yeah.
is great to have. It's a great bonus, but it's not like necessary.
It's not
Don't go out
necessary.
and buy it saying that I absolutely need it. No, that is not true.
That is not true. True. I'm assuming you're not going to keep this same setup forever, right?
No, probably not. I move out of this where I'm living in the next 5 months, so it's temporary.
What do you think you're going to upgrade next, and in what order do you think you're going to upgrade your equipment, if you ever do upgrade?
Yeah, so I honestly was considering investing into like a proper DSLR camera at one point, but I don't know, I just never really got around to it, and I don't really think I'll do it at this point because obviously expenses. But there's one thing I really do. I'm still like, I've been putting it off forever. I really want to look into getting a good mic for my videos. It's like
Yeah.
the audio I use literally just records from my phone. It's
Ooh.
not fancy at all, and I think a mic would make a big difference to my audio and videos as well. So I definitely want to look into that. I just get so lazy, and honestly, that's not even expenses, because like I've heard mics aren't too expensive. I could probably just get one, but it's just like doing the research for me is just like, I'll do it some other time, and then I just never
I
end
can
up
throw
doing
you some
so.
suggestions after this
Oh,
podcast. but-
please do.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
There's
Please
some
do.
there's some really good cheap ones out there that, like, there's the super expensive like $400 ones. Then there's like the cheap $20 ones that like sound very similar to those expensive ones if you like set them up and do some stuff. But it's
Maybe like a mid-range one would be good,
Yeah.
100, 150 or whatever.
wow. Okay, yeah, there's quite a lot of that range. In my eyes and in a lot of other people's eyes, they say that audio is like 60 or 70% of video. It's like it's way more important than your visual quality, basically. Because
Is that right?
what I've noticed is that like in streams and in videos, people like to watch them in the background. Like so
That
they're
makes sense. I do that too.
like when you're doing homework or you're working on something, having something on the
Or
side.
even cubing, actually. Even me,
True.
when my rare cubing sessions these days, like whenever I sit down to actually do a session, I always have something playing in the background. So yeah, I think I see where you're coming from, where audio is quite a bit more, is quite important, if not, way more important.
Do I ask the question? Okay, I'll ask the question.
Go
So
for it.
how you don't have to answer this, by the way. There's no pressure to answer this, but how much money do you make on YouTube?
Nothing at all. Basically, it's barely anything. It's like,
Right.
I mean, since I've shifted to New Zealand, it's actually gone higher because of ad rates and everything. But like, it's usually not more than like $3 every 1,000 views. Yeah, really not much.
Okay. For one thing, I have no idea why YouTube does this, but like, why is like the ad rates different in each country? Like, I have no idea.
I don't get it. I have no idea. I absolutely don't get it. But it's just how it works. So good on you, YouTube.
Like, I've come across so many like very talented Indian YouTubers that say they're not making more than like $1, $2 per 1,000 views. Like, it's not a lot, which is surprising.
Absolutely not. No.
Like, they deserve.
No, in
I
India,
feel like
it's
they deserve a lot
actually
more.
even worse. Yeah, I know a few like cubing YouTubers like from other languages. They don't even crack $1 a 1,000 views. I think much less than that as well. So it just fluctuates. For me, actually, $3 every 1,000 views is quite a bit, apparently, from what I've heard from other Indian cubing creators. So that way, I guess I'm lucky. But again, it's still not a lot of money at all.
Do you think money would change the content you make in any way?
I don't really know because wait, I need to think about this one. So I feel like if I had that extra money to spare, I might even like invest in a camera or something. But then
Right.
again, would it really make like a massive difference to my content? I don't know myself because the way I speak, the way I make my videos would still largely be the same.
Okay. So, like, if you woke up tomorrow morning and you checked your YouTube studio and it's like $1,000 on your YouTube page, like, what would you how? First of all, how would you respond to that? And second of all, like, what would you do with that money? Like, would you use it for YouTube stuff or would you use it for something else?
Okay, so if you asked me this question 5 months ago, I would say I would go out and maybe look into a new camera. But now, being like, that international university student, I feel like it would just go into my savings basically.
Yeah, that's a very responsible answer there. To be honest,
Guess so.
has the idea of full-time YouTube ever like crossed your mind?
Never. It's never been my goal in life, if I'm being very honest. I have
Okay,
other goals I want to achieve in life, and full time YouTube really isn't one of them. Like, I would love to keep making videos like forever and just, do it on the side. It's kind of like a de stressor to me. And like, I feel like if I
interesting.
even think about it being full time, it would just be stressful because, people who make full time YouTube their job, I've heard it becomes more and more stressful as it goes on. And to me, at the moment, it's kind of like a de stressing thing that I do for fun. So, thinking of even making it full time would kind of just make it more stressful, if that makes sense, I feel like.
That is very true. I think you have a very like opposing opinion to like 90% of people. Like a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's my dream to be a YouTuber or whatever." And like yeah, it's very interesting that the fact that it now becomes your job ruins the fact that it's no longer your hobby, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly what I'm saying. That's basically
Yeah,
what I was trying to say. Yeah, it's like, it won't be fun anymore. It'll just feel like another job. And
right.
my goals in life are very different from just being a YouTuber.
Okay. You don't have to answer this, but like what is your goal in life?
Just my number one goal in life is to be happy ultimately, and
Deep.
along with that, I would just like to complete my data science degree and just
Ooh.
get a job that pays well, shift to New Zealand, and then just live a good life going forward.
Okay. And how long do you think it would take for you to reach that point?
If everything goes to plan, within the next 10, 12 years, I should be pretty much settled
Long
in life
term.
and all
Wow.
set to go. But yeah, hoping for the best. Fingers crossed, everything works out.
I don't think a lot of people in your position have that kind of forward thinking as far as 10, 12 years. Like the people I knew,
Yeah,
they were like, just going 1 year at a time and then seeing where things go. But you seem to have everything sorted out.
for me, it's just like I'm the type of person who keeps who likes to keep planning forward, and my long term goal should be achieved. Like, I should think about my long term goals more than just the short term gratification goals that I'm aiming for.
That's a very mature answer. I'll
Yeah,
be honest.
thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
so what have been your like biggest setbacks on YouTube?
Biggest setbacks on YouTube. Honestly, I haven't really had that many big setbacks, if that makes sense. I,
True.
I, I I really don't think there was any point where I felt like, oh shoot, what am I doing? It's always just been, naturally just going forward with every video. I've never really felt like, dang it, what am I doing? Like, there are some times where I just wake up to my YouTube studio and saw like you lost like 20 subscribers or something. That's when I was like, oh shoot, that's kind of not good. And I used to feel pretty bad about it and make like community posts, but now it's just like, it's life. It's a part of life. I've
Yeah.
understood it now.
And then what do you think like how do you think your relationship with analytics changed over time?
So I used to be way more numbers based than I am now. Now my views are just going down, like it says on my YouTube studio, that down arrow, and like
Yeah, it's
I
very
don't know, it
scary.
doesn't really affect me. It honestly doesn't affect me that much. Like, it's not going into negative numbers, and as long as it's not going negative, that's totally fine by
Okay.
me.
Going back like 3, 4 years, for example, what do you think you would do differently to what you actually did?
I would probably invest in Final Cut Pro earlier than I did. Like, I just got it, I think, in like 2021.
Okay.
But in 2019, I would have probably gotten it. And then, I feel like Final Cut Pro made a big difference as to how I edit as well. I learned so much through it. And yeah, now looking back at iMovie was what I used to use. I just I can't believe I ever used it, honestly.
Yeah, I think so. Tingman on our recent episode said this, and I think this is very true. But every editing software can do anything you want it to do, but the more expensive programs typically lets you do it easier than the
Much
cheaper.
easier. Exactly.
So there's like fewer steps in order to do exactly the same thing in different software.
Exactly. Yeah, honestly, that Tingman video has been in my watch later for quite a while. I should get onto it.
It's a good episode. It's very
Yeah.
value packed.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Tingman is someone who, inspires me a lot, and I should definitely get on to watching it at some point.
So what is the most difficult part of making content for you?
At the moment, it's just finding time to do it. It's not really a problem of motivation or anything. If that's, that I feel like that's a problem with a lot of people, finding motivation to do it. But
Yeah.
I feel like when I do get free time, I'm just like, hey, let's make a video. It's fun.
So if you had infinite time to make YouTube content, how would that change the content you make, or like how much content you make?
I feel like I would make a lot more content than I am making now. Like, I don't know if you've looked at my videos, but like around this time last year, I used to post every 5-6 days. Now, I struggle to get a video out every like 10-11 days. Sometimes it even hits the 2-week mark.
Yeah.
And I feel like I would be way more like consistent than I currently am. Like, I would probably get back to at least once a week uploads. But yeah, if I had infinite time, I would work on videos a lot more, obviously. But yeah, at the moment it's kind of hard to find time, but I'm kind of getting better with it. So hopefully I can get back to more consistent uploads soon.
Okay. A bit of a curveball question here. Has there been any piece of content that you've not uploaded or like deleted from your YouTube channel?
There's been quite a few videos I've deleted, but as for not uploaded, I have so many videos that are like lined up in my time, like in my projects, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, there's a vlog from a competition I've done 2.5 months ago, and I really need to get along to editing it. And there's also another collaboration video I'm working with some of my friends back in India who started like a coaching program and helped me get faster at Megaminx, and I'm actually in the process of making that video right now. But yeah, I have a ton of like backlogged videos, if that makes sense, but ultimately editing takes a lot more time than filming, like at least for me. So yeah, it's kind of sitting in the backlog for a while, so I should get around to it.
I feel like I'm in your situation, but like 10 times worse. Like
that's all I'm sure you
there's a
know.
lot of stuff that I haven't edited yet that I probably should.
Fair enough. Yeah, editing just takes so much longer, as you know as well.
Yeah, very long. To the point where like you'd rather have someone else edit for you.
It's also like therapeutic when I edit a video. I don't know how to explain it. It's like as soon as I finish it and I hit that export button, there's no better feeling in life. I've finished a video.
I feel like that could burn you out quite a lot as well. Like to the point where you're halfway through an edit, it's like 60% done, but you really don't want to do that last 40%. So you're just like, yeah, we'll just export this and get it out. Has that ever happened to you?
Oh no, that's never happened to
Wow.
me. For me, it's just like I don't want to give out a video until I've given my 100% into
Okay.
it. There have actually been times where I've finished like about 95% of it the previous night because I was tired, and then the next morning I come back to it and look at it and I'm like, hey, it's missing these little
Yeah.
details here. Then I would just delete it and I would just add those details and re-export it again. It's like I never really sent out a video unless I was sure it was my 100%. Like, very rarely have I ever done that.
What would be your biggest piece of advice to someone who's editing YouTube videos or cubing content?
I would just say find an editor that like an editing software that you're comfortable with, and just learn how to use it properly and make sure that you're enjoying editing. Like, if you don't enjoy it, then there's no point in doing it ultimately.
Actually, one question before we move into the future plans topic, but have you ever got burnt out on YouTube?
Sort of. Like, I don't feel like I've reached that stage where I want to take a 2-3 month break, but there are definitely times where I felt like it would be nice if I could just take 1 week off, and I've just done that straight away. But more than a week, I've never really felt like I don't feel like doing it.
Like, I feel like people burn out at different rates. And then,
Oh yeah,
like, for
exactly.
example, Tingman's said he was going to take a month off, but then he only ended up taking off like 2 weeks at one point.
Yeah, exactly. I just had that fire in me. Like, I couldn't wait to get back to
Yeah,
making videos. Even after my 1 week burnout, I'm like, hey, this is going to be fun, fresh new start. And
yeah.
yeah, whenever I get that burnout and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to stop for a week. And then a few days in, I'm just itching, like, I can't wait to make a video again.
And then there's creators like JPerm who made content consistently for several years and then took like 3 months or 4 months just off.
Yeah, I can see him slowly, like, phasing out, if that makes sense.
Do you ever see yourself making multiple channels?
Honestly, probably not. I don't really have any other real interest that would be enough to create a whole new YouTube channel for. I don't play any games or anything. If I absolutely had to, it would just be university tips or whatever.
Yeah.
But then again, it's like a lot of people have stuff on that, and a lot of the tips would be the exact same as what I have to offer. So like, yeah, I don't really see a point.
So in terms of your future plans on YouTube, do you think you're still going to be on YouTube in 5 years?
Hopefully, like based on the way things are going in 5 years, I see myself consistently uploading content, like, maybe once every 2 weeks or something. Like maybe I won't be like as invested into it as I am now, but I hopefully I still like make cubing videos. 5 years is a long time though for me to even think about the channel. Like in terms of the channel, I can't really think long term. So hopefully I'll still be making like videos here and there, but who knows? We never know what can really happen.
Like, how big do you think you would be in 5 years on YouTube? If
Maybe
you had
like
to make a guess.
50,000 subscribers? Like
50,000.
30 to 50,000 subscribers, something like that.
Okay. We'll come back to this video in 5 years and we'll see how you got on.
We'll see. We'll see.
So what do you think like the cubing niche will look like in 5 years? Like the cubing industry.
Like in terms of YouTube content or?
In terms of like cubing, like WCA, and then content.
Yeah, so for WCA, I feel like smart cubes is gonna be the new meta. Like,
Interesting.
there's no reason to not switch to them. Smart cubes are pretty great. I feel like they'd be good competition cubes and everything. So maybe I don't know actually within 5 years, but eventually in future, I feel like WCA is gonna start branching out towards smart cubes because ultimately future is technology. And as for cubing content, I've noticed this since like COVID, it's become a trend. Like shorter form content has become like way more, popular, if that makes sense. And like I see now people who don't even go through like a 1 minute short, they get bored 1 minute in, and now
Yeah.
it's like getting slower and slower. So maybe in future it'll be like 5 second videos or something. I don't even
Wow.
know at this point.
Like, are you familiar with Vine?
No.
Oh, see, how old are you by the way?
I'm 19.
Oh, okay. So Vine was like a very old school platform, sort of like TikTok is now.
Oh.
And people would share, I think the maximum video limit was 7 seconds or something like
Oh
that.
shoot, really?
Yeah, I think that's how it worked,
my
if I'm not
God.
mistaken. But
That's
it's
interesting.
it's like what the boomers used to like make TikTok style content. So it'd be like
That's hilarious.
it'd be like very quick skits and stuff. You can probably search it on YouTube like Vine compilation. But like it was
Yeah,
it
I'll
was
have a look.
it was predominantly like skit content for 7 seconds. I might be completely
Thinking
wrong.
about it, I've seen like Vine compilation like titles on YouTube before,
Yeah.
but like I don't really know what that's ever meant.
Okay. Like a lot of the big YouTubers now, like Logan Paul started off on Vine and then he switched. And
I did not know
there's
that.
a lot of big YouTubers that started off like learning content on Vine. And I feel like YouTube Shorts is the same thing. It's like that stepping stone between making content to going to like full long form videos.
Yeah, absolutely. I see what you mean.
Because it's the barrier to entry on short form content is a lot lower. Like it's a lot
Lot
easier to
lower,
make
like
short form.
way lower. Yeah, like I've seen shorts with like 1 million views coming up in my feed, and I just think to myself, why are these even here? Like, damn, how did this get 1 million views? You just don't see that with long form content. Like long form content, if it has 1 million views, it's actually good stuff. Or just YouTube decided to pick it up, but that's a different story.
Do you have any interesting projects that you're looking forward to in the next, like in the near future?
Oh yes, absolutely. Very soon. I think I mentioned this before, but my friends coached me from India on Megaminx to help me
Ooh.
get faster, and I'm making a video on that. Currently working on it. It's in the works, and I'm excited to release that because my friends have been working hard on this project. They've been doing for ages, and I'm looking forward to doing my bit to promote it because they've
Okay.
also helped me out.
How fast are you on 3x3, by the way? I didn't actually check.
I'd say around 10 seconds, mid 10 seconds.
Do you want to have like a quick cube
Uh,
race?
yeah, let's do it, I guess.
Go.
3, 2, 1. Oh, okay.
I just started completely without you there.
All good. All good. What?
Whoa. Nah.
I just got a 7. That was a lucky scramble. I just got a 7-second solve.
Bruh.
That was crazy. 7.78. That's like faster than my 3x3 PR single. I got like an accidental X cross, and a PLL skip. So
Wow.
very lucky. Okay, that was unfair. I feel like that was unfair. Do you want to do one more?
We could
to
do
see
one
my
more.
actual
So I got
speed?
15.0 something.
Hey, that's pretty good.
It's not. It's not. Three,
Cool.
2, 1, go. Your pause threw me off there.
Oops. All right.
Still very fast. Another 15,
That was an
15.86.
11.65.
You are fast.
11.65.
So next time, if we do ever do another podcast together, which we should probably,
Absolutely.
my aim, and I'm gonna come back to this, is I want to get good at 2x2, and I've said that a billion times,
Yes.
and I want to eventually
You
challenge
must.
you at 2x2. So hopefully I'll get good at 2x2, even
Yes,
3x3
that sounds
actually,
great.
because 5 seconds, I think I can make that up. But
Absolutely.
that's my aim.
You can.
I think I
believe
can
in
do
you.
I'll come back to this whenever we do our next
I believe.
podcast. So to wrap things up, is there anything you want to shout out, or anyone, or any platforms?
I'd like to give a shout out to my friends back in India who coach me. The thing is called Speedcubing1 on Instagram. Go follow them.
Yeah.
Second thing, I'd like to give a shout out to my New Zealand friends, cubing friends, especially LICU, who's been working really hard overall in terms of speed cubing and his channel as a whole. And not really much more, but yeah, this was a lot of fun. And thanks a lot for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and goodbye. That's my outro.
Yeah, good outro. I will use that.